Interesting. Hi, this is Jennifer. I guess you guys weren't, it says participants can now see my screen. I thought you were seeing my screen all along, but evidently not. My name is Jennifer Broadwater. I'm going to get started with going over what's basically Billing 101. And so what's up on my screen right now is everything we'll be going over today. And then at the bottom is my little disclosure of what we're not going over today. So we're not being, it'd take too long to do this. And I'd like to keep it to an hour because that's the way we should do it. And so billing worksheets, media billing, and retainers are not going to be covered, but we will be going over, the fixed fees, the time and materials, advanced billing, billing schedules, and campaign fixed fee billing and mass billing. So a lot to cover. So I'm hopefully if you have any problems hearing me, let me know. If you have a question, I think there's a Q&A part over here, but I may cover it during the call. So we might want to leave that till the end here. And we will be going over starting with some introduction. Of course, I work at Workamajig as one of the trainers, and I know some of you guys are some of the companies I work with, which is great. And basically, this is Billing 101. This is for more of a new user, not too fancy, and we're going to start very basic today and then move on to more complicated things. I'm also going to go over, in the background over here, is a list of things that have changed in Workamajig for billing in the last, say, 6 months, and they come out every month when we do updates to our system. And sometimes people read them and some people don't read them. I can't say I always read them, but for this, I definitely needed to read them. So we'll also be going over that. So first off, thank you for coming. And I'm going to be I'm on a Mac. If you guys are interested, because usually when you're working Workamajig, you want to be on the most latest version of everything. And I'll just let you know I'm going to be using Chrome. So let me put this down there. All right, so to get started with, if you are needing more information or you're interested in more training after this, of course, you can reach out to support@workamajig.com and say, hey, I need to get, I have these detailed questions that I need more help on than Jen went over today. That's one way. The second way, as you guys probably already know, we have a help guide, and you can literally just type in billing, and pretty much it's going to tell you all the different, ways to bill and instructions on this. And you can just click on any of them. In addition, if you don't already know this, which you do since you're here, but we have past webinars. If ever you want to see one of our old ones, like the 2021, and you can watch them at any time. They're usually up on YouTube, and you can look through here and say, oh yeah, I want to. Oh, it's taking a long time to load. You can just click on it and watch the webinar. So a lot of ways you can get in more information after today for more trainings. And there's a list of ones that are coming up that you may be interested in the upcoming webinars. Feel free to look at the ones for November. Revenue forecasting is really good. Campaign workflow is really good. And this is, they're all really good. I can't say, I'm not doing any of those, but my coworkers are. So, all right, so we're going to start with a very basic, hey, I'm new to Workamajig, and we call it ad hoc billing. Basically, you're billing out of the project. Actually, we're not going to start with that. I said I was going to start with transaction preferences and client level setup. So there is some back end before I get to this page. And that is not going to be, everybody will not be able to get, can I make my screen bigger? I can make the icons bigger, but I don't know if I can go any bigger than that. That's as big as I can go without things like losing it on here. So thank you, Melissa. All right, so, now I already forgot what I was going to say. All right, so the first thing is not everybody will have access to transaction preferences, but if you do, this is where some of the setup is a global way to set things up for your clients. That's located in Admin Manager and System Setup and Transaction Preferences. So there's two things. Well, one, you can look at the client invoices that we're going to go over today, and there's going to be some new options, I guess you would say. So you can either have like your approver for an invoice to be the person entering the invoice, or an AE from the project header, automatically approved, or person entered below. So this is a default that maybe doesn't need to be, it's just for everybody. And then you can have your own process, but this default approver person then would be your list of people on here. And I can pick somebody if I want a default approver. All right, so send approver notifications, that's on by default. If you guys want to switch it, it's just saying you'll be getting an email or something in your bell when an invoice is approved if you are part of this process on the project. Typically, you want to update the actual rate on the service when the time entries, when the billing worksheet is edited. We're not talking about billing worksheets, but we want to have our services rates match what's on the billing worksheet. So we would update it if the service rate changed, we can update that in the middle of the project when you go to do a billing worksheet. Some people like to set the invoice number on approval. I think it gets confusing, but you can do that, meaning I usually like to do it when it's printed, not upon approval, because that gets kind of like, then I'm not sure if I ever actually did that. So you can enable split billing. That's another call if you want to have, say, one company is paying for a portion of it and you need to split your billing, you can do that. Visible to clients on project, we weren't talking about that. And you may have taxes and you can have this set tax and tax 2 applies on the client invoice lines. This can be a default. And then if you don't need this, of course, Workamajig isn't about taxes anyways, but if you need to have taxes edited in there, that's where you would do it. Get invoice templates from the GL company. Oh, that's not applicable. Okay. So really what I wanted you guys to see is there will be client default. So if you do not set up something at the client level, this is what it's automatically going to do. Like, so your biggest thing to decide is if I forgot to put somebody in and know what they wanted to, how they want to see their invoice, this is the way to set it up in the background. So it's either one line item, one per task, one per service. So these are all, we'll talk about each one of these and see them today and how you want to set it up. And again, what would be above that is whatever is set at the client level. And we have checks on there. So all I'm letting you know is you can set it globally, but then when we can come over to any client, those choices can be, why change that? Set in the billing options of any client. You'll see billing defaults. And this is where I can decide if they're taxable, then I can pull in, you know, what tax rate I need. If there's a second tax, estimate your AR account, which really should have been accounts receivable on mine. I don't know why this person doesn't have it. And then you can even default in an estimate template, but the campaign invoice, the invoice templates, you can build as many of these as you want. I am going to show you in the back end some different options for that. So you may set one up for this particular company, and then you can still change it when you go to print it. And then you have that but default time and materials or billing method. So I can change it to fixed fee or retainer. Those are pretty much the only ways that we can have our default, meaning I can change it at the project level, but I want to save it here. So in addition, while we're over here, some things to note is in the contacts. So usually you have a client and there may be several contacts in there, and you may need to set, when you have the client, you may need to set on the contact information where add the invoice email. So if you do emails to your clients, you want to make sure that it will automatically go to the email of, you know, if you're doing the project for Jen Sicioni, it'll go to her. But if you need to add another email, you can name it here and then 2 will come up for you. Question: who does the email come from? It needs to be a contact in the system at least. So how do I say this? So sometimes you have a billing department, so you're sending it to your client, but actually their billing department needs to pay it. So they might have, you need to set it up. Well, you can call it whatever. They actually don't have to be client, but the name for the email would be like the billing department email and the name of the person that needs to get it on there. So you put that in here. And then, oh, in fact, I'll just show you. Email, because this we might go on at email.com. Okay. Oops, that's another name. Let's call it Meg Ryan. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So this gives you an additional person to email them to. I have a question that says, is that at the client level only, or can it be global? It is at the client level because usually you have multiple, unless you're internal marketing firm, you usually have different people for different clients that you would be sending the billing invoice to. So yes, it's a pain if you're an internal marketing firm, you do have to go through here and add them individually for all of them that need it. Is that additional email ACC? No, that it doesn't say CC on it. It goes to separately to each of them. I'm sorry. So the email, and I'll show you when we get down to this, they won't look, you won't see the other person that's on it. It will just be one to Jen and one to Meg, and they don't see them together. All right, good questions. Excuse me, one moment. So again, those are just some choices. I'm not going to save that in here that are basically for the billing process. All right, so that back end can be done globally or it can be done individually. So again, that's in your client's area. If you need to have more access, that is a security setup. I think if we go to your admin manager and your system setup, if you're not sure or you don't have access to any of this, it's usually based on a security setting, and you would type in like invoice, and then you can see, do you need to be able to edit billing options? Do you need to, view client invoices? What do you need to do with, do you need to add the payments, approve vendor invoices? These are all things for billing and purchasing that if you just type an invoice, that's the list of what you may need to get to if you need to be able to be an approver on this. Which actually brings me to one more thing, because we're in the back end anyways. Back in this transaction preference, one of the new things, if you didn't note this, I think it's in here. We've always used client account managers, and I will show you where those are on the project themselves. But now we can actually have a client project manager. If I put show project manager and have a client project manager, these are two different things on a project, meaning if I save this on here, I get a new spot to put one AE or AM are the same thing, and then a PM. So just looking at any project, I just want to show you where this is, because a lot of people have been asking for this, and this is a newer feature. So now in the, I think it's project settings. So now we have a place for account manager and a place for project manager, which you wouldn't see on here. I have to make, unless you have that unless you have that option on, because some people will have this flow, because it's really about what flow does it need to go from a PM to an AM to a biller to an accounts payable, you guys can decide that. I'm just going to put that on there so you guys can see how that works. All right, so we're going to start now, unless you have any other questions. That was my transaction preference and client level setup. In the security settings. So now we're going to look at the invoice template setup before we start actually billing, because this is an important thing, and you can get really crazy with this. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, I've built 1,000 of them over the years. They are found in your admin manager in your system setup. Under billing options, you're looking at those invoice templates, which is going to affect the way that your invoices print. So you can make as many as you want. People will have certain ones they want for a campaign, and then it's a lot of people lately are just doing one line, and then some people want one with task. But let's just look, when you open this up, you have different layouts, like how do I want to see this? What do you want to call it? And what kind of details do you need on this? Meaning, do I only need to, if I did a top level line that's taking your summary or summary lines, or top level line is just the main project line. And basically you're going to decide, do I need to see, what do I need to see on here? Do I need descriptions, quantities? Do I need to see 1 hour at $270 an hour equals? That would be your quantity description. Do you need to roll up your expenses? So these are just options. And I will go, there is a place for a footer. And sometimes the footer, I'll say this, if you put it up here, sometimes it doesn't look right on the page. And I just tell you, it like pushes it 2 up. And if most of my invoices, so if you're a client and you only have like 1 or 2 lines on your invoices and it's just production or something like that, you need, the footer should probably be away from all that information. So you can always just enter, and then put the footer like down further on the page. If you're a person that's using a lot of the space on your invoice, then it's fine to put your footer up here. It's just a visual thing that bugs me. So I always like put mine down if I'm just doing a short one. No, I'm not going to change that. Oh, also I'm going to this detailed one. You'll notice on here you have a layout, and you do have the ability to, and I will say this, so this looks really big, and obviously you wouldn't want this picture this big if that was your logo. But what really controls it, if it looks too big on here, is the sizing on here. Like I can say this really logo should be 1 inch by 1 inch, and that it doesn't save when I say hit save on here, guys. And go back into this, it doesn't look any different on here, but when I print it out, it'll only be 1 inch by 1 inch. So just note, sometimes we tell you if you want to, it should be 1 inch by 3 inch at, I don't know, some 72 DPI or something when you're putting a logo on here. So you might have to just experiment. I just threw that off. I just take a picture off the internet. It needs to be like a JPEG or something to go on there. You also have special templates for, which we're not going over today, but do you see the broadcast and insertion orders? All right, there's a chat on here. Oh, how do you preview the layout from here after you make the changes? This is a very good question, because this is a pain, because I always wanted to okay, I want to see what this looks like. Literally, which one was this called? Detailed. Literally, I go and look for an invoice here. I have to have an invoice, and then I open the invoice, which has nothing on here. So we're not going to open that invoice. Hold on. I look for an invoice. Okay, maybe this one. Is that a different one? To find a decent one. Okay. And then I go to this details, and then you scroll down. This is like a lot of steps, and then you decide that one was called detailed, right? And then you have to hit save, and then you can print, and then it will come up. So the printing obviously doesn't really do anything. Let's see. Oh, that was too small. So I guess it was better before. But then you can go back to it. I have another question. And if it's not displaying the detail you want, do another one. But this is very ad hoc. This is from the project itself. How do I set a global template? Do we have global template? That's a good question. I'm not sure if we have a global template for that. So we're just going to take a quick peek because I can't remember. Let's see. So it would be a transaction preference for a global. And we're going to go into the client invoices. Was there a global option down here? This is the billing line, but it does not have on here. This is a good question, because I don't see a place where I can oh, maybe I do it here. Fixed fee service. No, I'm just checking to make sure. The security groups, the billing method, but not the actual, you can't default what the estimate labor taxable. No, let me check one more place, because sometimes they put things in odd places in Workamajig. And I'm like, wait, no, I don't see it on here. If anybody sees that and wants to let me know, I don't see it as a global option to pick that from. Let me know. I create a template within the invoice templates and use it as my global template. I'm not sure what that means, Paula. When you create a template within the invoice and then you use it as your global. So is there a place on here that you have been able to put that in for a global option? Because I'm not sure what that's referring to, but I will get back to you and we can take a look at that in a little bit. All right, so basically, mostly you're looking at, billing method can be defaulted in, other things, but I don't see the template in the client invoices, which I thought, we have this, we have invoice numbers, the default messages, all kinds of stuff. The billing line format you can default. So this is how do I want to break this out? If I just want that one I just showed you was very broken out, but I could say in the default, it will only look at this if there's nothing set on the client itself. All right, I'm going to check this chat again. So I use that same template in each of my invoices. How do you set it at the client? Okay, I'm going to have to talk to you, Paula, because I don't know where you put that. How do you set it at the client level? Okay, we can go back to that one, because I do know it's definitely able to be set at the client level. So on the client, again, we were in this one. It's under billing, and it's it's under the defaults, and it's your invoice template. So this is where I have all those different ones. And if I wanted to always default, this is where I would put it in from the client, because different clients have different needs, right? So you know, whichever one you think fits that client, put it in there and it will always populate, but you can always change it later. So just so you know, even if I go to print it and I'm not happy because I picked the campaign one, you can change it at the time that you're actually doing it. So I'm going to show you how that all breaks down. All right, we're going to start with the easiest thing and then we'll build up from there. So the fixed fee, expenses included. All right, fixed fee is simply the most basic way to bill. And all you're doing on a fixed B, yeah, is billing whatever your estimate was approved of for. So I can't bill it, and it's in your settings, your setup of your billing options. If it's fixed fee, and we're going to talk about this one next, that's, you have to have an approved estimate or multiple estimates. So you can have a change order, you might be billing 2 different estimates, but you need to at least have something that's approved. While we're on this page, I will tell you this is where, if you guys do have a process where you could be having it go to another person to get approved, the billing manager might be set as the approver. And then there's a part where some of my clients are not using, but I do think it's good, where you're working on a project and you want to let the biller know, hey, it's ready for my estimate billing. And this, I'll show you where that gets updated. So these can be defined in the back end if you decide you want to call them different things, but it should also have its own process, not just the project process of I'm in production or I'm ending or I'm on hold, but billing is a whole new world to say, yeah, if I bill a lot of stuff, I need to be able to Spicy Ginger needs to be able to pull a report that says, I need to get all my stuff ready for estimate billing. And then that's where it would come into play. Most of the time you're getting your labor rate. I will just talk about that for a second from the service or service rate sheet. Occasionally people will use the actual project and they'll just like, the whole project has an hourly rate of, and they put that rate in there, or they do actual staff rates. And then it will tell you what the staff rates are in here. That's a one-off. Like for the most part, use a service or a service rate sheet for when you're doing this. I mean, that's like the normal way. All right. So that went in billing options. All right. So what I said is you need an approved estimate to bill. So the estimate has been approved internally. It's $1,500 and you can always, know what these things are. So at some point you probably did your estimate. You printed this estimate to your client, you should. And then this is what I want to bill. So very simple process. It's approved. At any time it's approved, I just go to the billing tab down here. And I say, what do I want to bill? Do I need to bill all of my services and my shipping? I don't have to. Do I want to bill 50% now, 50% later? We're going to talk about schedules in a few minutes also. Then I could do, just a portion on a billing schedule. But for this, just to show you how easy it is, you're just taking and creating an invoice. And I'm going to show you advanced also, but the revenue invoices, you're taking that revenue at the time, obviously, that you print this. And it's approved. So you'll see that Spicy Ginger was the approver on this and it's approved on here, but then you may not, this is the thing that came in from the invoice templates. I'm going to leave it on here because I set this one up for today, but you could change this. And if you didn't like the way this printed, you could just go back and fix it because you just are like, okay, what? So the first thing I do is make sure that it's going to look the way I want to see it. So you can just go and hit print. And then, okay, so this one has the logo. There's some choices in the back end where we're putting some people don't want to see the AE on it and they hide this. That's an option of the setup. But this particular one is giving me the different services and the supplies separate. And then here's my regular old bill. Here's that. I told you on some of them, you can move this footer down, because for me, I like the footer more at the bottom of the page, but it automatically, if you do it too high, but you'd go back into it and move it down and then it's, there. And then after you did this, like it's not, it doesn't hurt you if you came back in here. Let's just say I was like, yeah, that's not going to make my client happy. I should just get into this pizza invoice. I don't know what this is. And then you just come back and print, and then it will look, depending on what your options were in that, it's going to look a little bit different. So this is very ad hoc. This is looking at it one at a time. Actually, this looks pretty much the same. I think the print might be smaller, and I didn't put the account AE on here or the name of the project. So these are options in the back end. This is can come in from the client or default. and then your invoice. So at this point, if you're doing ad hoc, meaning I'm just simply doing it from the project, let me read this real quick. If you have an estimate of $14.99.50, but quote a fixed price, how do you enter that? Oh, let's go back to that in 1 second. Let me finish this and I will show you how to do that. It's finagling the numbers, right? Everybody has to do that once in a while because people don't always like 59 cents on here or something weird like that. What was my point of this? I have no idea. All right, that's okay. So this is already approved. Again, most people will not be posting this, but oh, that's what I was going to say. So when we go to print it, you have two options, and then I'll go over to that question I just had. You can email, and this is where I would come in and I would have my list of, you might be the contact for here, and I could do multiple contacts if I need to, but I can add selected and then send the email out from here, and I can write a note on it. Most of my clients can download it, or they all can download it, right? I can download it and then attach it with some fancy, legal stuff that you need to, or I can just print it if you guys have a printer and send it in the mail. So let me go back to the other question. Is the from when sending, is it a Workamajig email? Can it be invoices? You would have to change in the back end setup because it should be coming from your name. But if you wanted to say invoices or billing at as the from, I think there's a change in the back end you can make. I'll have to check after this class and let you know. But that's a good question. All right, so that one thing you did ask there, Dan Thompson did, the $14.99.50, but you quoted. So really that comes back to, and I'm going to undo this. I do want to show you guys that if you weren't happy with it, deleting the invoice is pretty easy, right? Oh, a hand raise. Where'd that go? Sorry, guys. I don't know how to get to the hand. I'm so sorry. Where is that come from? Never had a hand raise. Who can see your messages recording on? Oh, everybody. Okay. Let me go back to this. I'm sorry if I missed something. How do you attach documents from here to send it to a client? That's when you have to download it and then do an email attachment from your own. I don't believe you can put the attachment on the invoice itself, but let me go back to the first thing and then we'll look at so many questions. Oops. So I said it had to be approved. We're on fixed fee, expenses included. And in that estimate, and you didn't like that it was 1,500. So the estimate would have to be unapproved. And then you would go in, wait for it, sorry. Well, this is a long time for unapproving. It wasn't that exciting. All right. I don't know if you want to change labor, but that's the simplest thing. So if you said that you needed a gross amount so that this was an extra $50 on here. So it's 1450 and we want it, I would just, it's not going to be right though. I mean, because it might not be coming. This is not a call for estimates, but you would have to finagle this to say, I need 175 to be the amount on here to make it an even 1,500. And you can do that with any thing on this page. You can change it to what you want it to say. So if it's just a penny or something, it's not a big deal. But I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to be really fixing those rates because this then has to be reapproved. And then that becomes the amount that we bill. Does that make sense? Are you able to see the sent emails when you use the email invoice option? Yes. So let's do that and I will show you that. So let's go back to the invoice. 1 second, guys. All right. So we went down into billing and I actually took the revenue invoice out. So we're just going to do that again. Create an invoice, revenue. And in the details, once I send it, printed or emailed, it's going to tell me in this details. So let's make sure that this works as it should. So I go to the print key. And I say, I want to email it. And I find contact that I want to email it to. And then I send, and it goes out. So this should trigger, if I go back into the invoice itself, if all goes well. Now, I don't know if I have to refresh my page, but I will. I don't know how fast the timing is of this, but now if I go in here, it should say emailed, printed. Oh, printed. Why did it not say emailed? Ooh, well, it should say emailed. Hold on one second. That should not, it should say, if I go to print. Oh, okay. It's considered printing it when I hit the print key. This allows me to email, but it's considered printed. When I go to the mass billing, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes, the option for the email is different and it's kind of confusing, and that will show up as emailed when I do it from the billing today. There is going to be a little bit different process when billing from here, and then it shows up as the email. So that was a good question because I've forgotten that myself. But so you see that it's going to be fixed fee, expenses not included. Now we've created that invoice anytime under the billing. Actually, I didn't create this invoice. I thought I did. Now it's created. And then printing it, and then it's approved already, right? Yes. So now if I go back, you have a revenue invoice in here. So what if you screwed up? Or this was not the amount that you wanted to do, which actually this isn't the same as the approved amount actually, because we do an approved amount for different than that amount. Oh no, because there was other stuff on it. But the existing invoice in here, you can always just click on it and it will bring up the invoice itself, and you can always go back to it, make changes on approve it if you needed to, even delete it. So as with security rights. 1764. I want to just check this 1 second because I believe that our estimate was not for 1764. It is for 1690. Hold on 1 second because that's not the amount that we approved. 1690. That doesn't. Maybe I did estimate. That should have matched the actual billing amount because we're just doing a plain old thing. So just give me 1 second. I just want to see why that's not pulling it after we did it to 1690. Zero time. Oh, with extras. There was no extras on there. This was fixed fee. And I'm just going to check this one more time and then we'll move on to the next thing because I'm not positive why that amount is not on there for 1690. So if you need to get rid of, we have to go all the way back to deleting the invoice. Then you should refresh your page, and total with extras is $74. Oh, that's where it came in. There it is, the fixed fee with the extras, because we had a miscellaneous cost on here. So the 1690, and then there was $74 more down here, which I didn't note. So depending on you set up, if you have a miscellaneous cost and you put that through, this could actually be billed, or it does not have to be billed. So it's up to you guys. If I just need to bill the 1690 and I press this, and I apologize, I actually shouldn't have. All right, there is a question, at least one. Do you have to post to make it final? I think the invoice was not posted. No, well, typically the person that's creating the invoices in most of my companies does not post it at the same time. That's a really good question, because most of the time you're going to come over to your accounting page and you're going to have your accountant or CPA or whatever actually post these. So they would be in this unposted transaction. This is a good question. And when you go to this print key, you can do it what's called the pre-posting report. Obviously, you shouldn't have this many transactions in there. And then that person would go ahead and post them all at once. Like some clients will just do it and then post, but I see for the most part, there's more of an organization of, hey, let's do this once a week, and then we post them all. So it's up to you guys, but this can be done by just hitting all this, and then you just hit post. I don't want to post all of mine, but I can just do a couple and then just hit post, right? And it goes into posting, and not, that's a security right, so, to post And not everybody will have that, but if you guys are have that, then that's great. Yes, so you add that. It added, thank you. It did add it to the expenses. Thank you, because I just missed that. Does the estimate contingency amount have any influence on the amount of the fixed fee? No, that's only for the estimate to go out. If it needs to be changed after you had that contingency of 10%. So where that is coming from, what he's asking, or she, I didn't even look, Dan. Go back to this one, sorry guys. Oh no, it was this one. That's why my first problem is. So in the estimate itself, not to get off track, but there is the ability to have a contingency in here. I would have to unapprove it first. This contingency is not, if I put a 10% for 1,700, that amount is not the amount that I'm going to bill. But I can come back if I said 10, it should be 1,700. That's when I would come in, unapprove this, and then make changes. That's a good question. Very good. All right, so back to, shoot, it's 11:06. There's not a way, any way I'm ever going to get through all these. All right. So fixed fee, when it has the expenses are not included, all that means is when I go to the billing options, I have this checked. And I actually think this is the one I accidentally did earlier when I meant to click on that one because the lines are so similar. But in any case, if I have this, any actuals that come through are going to be a billed in addition to the amount that I see on the estimate. So all that means, I think this is the one I did, is that food and beverage that was not included can come over here, and that's my extra. Oh, actually, it's this spicy ginger food and beverage for the $74. So you'll see extras on here, and then you have, which we already billed, the fixed fee amounts. We didn't actually bill this. And then I need to decide, do I want to also, you don't have to even at this point, but you should, if you say it's not included. This means if someone gave me an expense report and I didn't put it on the estimate, I still want to bill for it. So you would see two sections on here. The through date always goes to the last day when you're looking at this, because this gets tricky right here. If for some reason you were billing right after this came in, you might not see it because it always goes, I mean, it's fine now because it's only November 2nd, but sometimes you might miss this extra because it doesn't show up unless this through date would be pushed out. So you can always like move, and you might see different things to be billed if the through date is different, which is completely different from the billing page, which does it for today's date. The through date says today's date, ad hoc says the last day of the month prior to. Does that make sense? I hope. All right. So again, we're just creating a revenue invoice. We've added the 74 extra. And then we're deciding in the details over here which invoice template you want to use, and you're printing this. So let's make sure that it's 1764, because these are those extra expense. So depending on how you put it on your thing, you're going to get a total that may or may not include that extra expense. All right. So again, a posting can be done here if you wanted to, just for those people who like posting, we will post it. And then over here, if it says posted yes, it will tell you, I put this to accounts receivable, and here's all where the lines went to, because it's everything is individual based on the item. And most of the time it's all, you know, in one thing. People might have certain different general ledgers that needs to be broken out into, but it's accounts receivable. All right, no questions yet. Okay. All right, we're going to go down what we saw that. We did fixed fees with the through ad hoc. We did this one. Time and materials time and materials ad hoc is the next one. So that in your settings is going to literally just be time and materials. So we're billing our actuals. I don't care if I gave them an estimate. You can have an approved estimate on here for this amount, and the actuals came in at something else. So the page actually looks a lot different. So when I come down to billing, everything that I can see that came through will show up. And before I do that, I will tell you the transactions area right below the billing is where you will see all transactions that went through on this project, quantities, amounts, nets, gross, who did what, basically. And they are vouchers, labor, and expense reports, but I didn't do any on this one. That's where you see the stuff first. So you can go through there. But when we get to the billing section, it looks a little different because it gives you more options. At this point, here is all my unbilled labor, Drew, Keanu, all these people worked on this. Here's that voucher. And at this point, you're deciding, do I want to bill all this? You have a bunch of options. I could just come through and say, you know, I'm giving this away for free. I need to write it off. You have an option. You can make your own write-off reasons, and I can do that and make a comment if I need to. I can come back in here and transfer it to another project. Somebody needed this to transfer to some other project, so I can take it and look at, oh darn, it was supposed to be on healthy living, we'll say that, and it could go towards a task, and you just transfer off. So as you build or change things on here, you are able to open up, you can change your rates, you can change your gross, you can change the service, you can even change a task before you bill. Once you do those, like I move stuff over there, then you will see, oh, what did I write off on this? When I click on this, there's that write-off. If I wanted to move it back, undo the write-off. It makes it pretty simple to go through these different areas. The one thing I do see that most clients miss, or when you're billing, is you might have some, I don't think I have anything unapproved, but any time that was not approved would be in this section here. I just didn't make any time. And you know, a lot of people don't always check this before you build, because there might be some people, the little stragglers, that didn't do their timesheet for the day and didn't get it approved. That's usually over there. And once I bill, there'll be a section of build. We haven't done that yet. And then you can hold, put that actual item on hold. There's nothing on hold, but I could do that. I could just say, I'm holding this till next time. Question, hold on. Should the rate and the amount be changed at the timesheet level versus the unbilled? That would be the preferred method. Melissa, that was a great question, because it should be changed at the timesheet level versus someone just changing it on the fly, because that does a little bit mess with your reporting aspect of this. So I would always recommend changing it on the timesheet, which we can talk about later. You can go back to the timesheet and change it, unapprove it, and make it go to the right place, because sometimes it does get confusing of what went where, and then you have to start pulling other reports that say, okay, what things got transferred, how many hours, and it makes me crazy. But that's a good question. We would prefer you not to do it this method. We're just letting you know we're very flexible, and we'll let you do that. Change it to, you know, $500 an hour or whatever I want to change it to. Now it's $1,000. Okay. So at that point, when you're ready to bill, then you're just coming over here, and whatever's the labor and all the transactions on here, you just bill. This is the line format. So this is a little bit different than when we just did the ad hoc. And the reason is because you want to be able to break it down more for your client. So this is going to address if you guys have billing items, if you have one service, if you want to look at it task way. Most people do it like this. And you can even at this point still change the amount. And if I decided to, it is what it is. It won't match on your reports, but I can change it to the 7,000 if I want to and create an invoice. I wouldn't do that. Don't take that recommendation. Usually it should be what you actually did. So what you'll see now is the way that we're doing this, we're breaking it down by service on mine. Again, in the details, that's still going to reflect even if I change my invoice template. So if I print on this, sorry, I should get, yeah, this is really detailed. This is like breaking out every hour that I have on here to give me the totals. Do they need to see that? Most of my clients don't need to see that, but some do. So you kind of decide how much you want to see for each. Questions on any of this so far? And there was something else I want to talk about besides that printed. I'm going to say that this emailed, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And if you decided that you needed sales tax on this for whatever sales tax you have, you can do that also. And obviously I already printed that one, so I'm not going back. All right, so then this is time and materials. That is ad hoc. I'm looking at the project itself. If I go back in here now, I have one revenue invoice, right? Now we're going to talk about, since it's already 11:14, a lot of people do advanced billing, and that's when you put money into a liability account, or you put the invoice into a liability account, and then you recognize revenue as you go through it. So it's a little bit different. I like to show it in the ad hoc way, advanced billing fixed fee. So all this means over here, it's a fixed fee. Again, let's look at the project settings, the billing options, fixed fee, right? But now I decided when I want to bill this, that was an approved estimate. I want to take this and I only want to bill 50% as an advance. So instead on here, when you take and you put 50%, it automatically adjusts the amount. And when I create an invoice, I want to do an advance bill. So some clients give the advance bill, the 50% to the client. Other people advance the whole thing, 100% of it, and then they give several invoices throughout the time. So there's no like right or wrong way. But again, it's very flexible. So now I have an advanced bill on here. And this one is a little easier to read, actually. So now time goes by and you want to actually do the other 50% on there. So let me refresh my page and make sure this works correctly. And then you're going to take that advance out and make it a revenue invoice. And I'm going to show you the posting on that one. And now you're going to come back here and say, oh, I need to bill the other 50%. This is just one way to do it. There's like 1,000 ways to do this, but we have one advance and now we're doing a revenue invoice for 50% of it. And when I create this revenue invoice, it gives me a little option over here to apply the advanced billings. It tells you I have 1,500 in advance, right? And you can auto hit apply advances. Yay. So now when we see this invoice, we see that the advanced billing was on here for 1,500. Oh, I only billed 50%. Okay. The total invoice was 1,500, should have been 3,000. So he should have amount due of 1,500. My bad. Hold on. Okay, so we're just going to take this revenue invoice and we're going to unapprove. I think it's going to tell me I need to take the advance off first. If you ever get stuck in a circle of you can't just note, trash canning doesn't do anything. It just will remove that from there. So you can kind of start over and then delete, which it won't let you delete. So if you ever get a red mark up here, oh, it's deadlocked. That doesn't seem good. I want to get back to the beginning. And we're going to go to billing. And we have the advance bill. And what I should have done here is put 100% now here. And then we're just going to create a revenue invoice against it. This should, sorry about that. I should have done 100%. So now we want to take that advance again. It opens it up, you apply it. And then when you actually print this, it should have the right amounts to 1,500. Yeah. So our advance bill was 1,500 and now it's the end of the project and now I'm billing the other 1,500. So the invoice total is 3,000 and now it's all recognized revenue. On here, when you post it, I do want to note you guys to note if we were to post it from here, it automatically comes out of the liability account. And if you can see on here from the advance bill accrual to accounts receivable, and this is how it would post on here. So accountants get more excited about that than I do. All right. The next thing I want to talk about, let me check up here if there's any questions. No. All right. Time and material. We need to do this one. Time and material mass billing. All right. So it would be weird if everybody just, I mean, some of my clients do, they just bill right out of the project. Most clients have a procedure where when it goes into a certain status, ready for estimate billing or something, somebody can go over and look for this and then bill it from a page where they're doing multi projects at once. So what you're looking at is going to the billing today page. And then you have all these things to bill. And we're not doing this today. That's a whole nother deal. But if I come over here and I said, okay, I want to bill those, client was Alice, I think. So Alice in Wonderland. And I do a search, I can see that these things are ready to bill. Now I could also come over here and come to the project billing status and say, I only want the ones ready for progress billing, because you saw me hit that. There should be, wasn't it progress billing? Oh, maybe it wasn't progress billing. That was billing. I just do ready for final billing, ready for estimate billing. That was it. All right. So here we have one that's in that status, and then I could do multiple at once if I want to. In fact, let's do that. because I don't want to just show you just one thing. Why mass billing is good. You can bill all the mass billing in one client all together instead of doing individual invoices. So I'm going to take that off and just do everything. All right. So we're going to say this is good and I want to build this. And then when you hit generate over here, it's looking at total remaining percentage, percent to bill. This is the amounts that you need to bill that came up. And when you generate, this is again, when you have one invoice per client, is this going to give me one number, or by project, then I'm going to get two invoices, or by parent client, which I don't have set up, but we'll just do one. And then you have more lines. Like, do I just need one line or do I need multiple lines? So then you generate, this gets kind of mixed in with what your actual invoice template looks like when you're doing mass, because it's giving you these different options. When you do the approval for this, there is some setup if you wanted them automatically approved or not. I'm not going to do those other two. And this is Alice 70. Where's my other one? Time and materials. And this is where I wanted to let you guys know. This is where the email will show up. So if you have this, it's a little bit different. And I do email invoices. This is this is where I told you you can set up the billing one. I don't know why there's two on here. I must have done something weird. But I can include that. And then Alice gets one email also. And you have some decisions on here to include the invoice comment in an email message, you know, and you can decide this. But when I send it through this method, the from you could change. Somebody was asking me that earlier. I can change that from to something else and it will still go and it will say whatever instead of me saying Jennifer B. But now if I go back to that project, oops, I come down to here. Today is the 2nd. Yeah, to November 2nd. So if you're just searching for something little, and it was, now I can't remember which one it was. Wasn't that one? Hold on. It was posted. Who is this one? Printed. No, that wasn't that one. One of these we now should say emailed, and it should be printed. Give me a second. I don't remember which one I just did. Third one. Emailed. Yay, thank you for your help. All right. One invoice per project option. Does it send to all the individual invoices in the same email? No, they're individual. If it's one invoice per project, you get one, they'll get 5 different emails, I believe. So instead of just, if you want to do one each, then it just needs to be singular. But you want one email. I think we also have an option to do one email with all of them together. Is that what you're wanting to do, Jessica? Like one email, 5 invoices on one email? Okay, let me check on that after this call, and I'm just going to write down your name because I'm not positive that you can do that. If you ever want to see, before I go on, did these emails go out? Admin manager, today's managers, there's an email log. And invoices emailed. No email sent. So I guess I haven't looked at this one sent today to today. So if you're ever not sure if an email went out, it will tell you if it went out. Why is this taking so long? There shouldn't be that much in there. That email that we just did a minute ago. No, that's not the one we just sent email because it's not 11 a.m. Should show that. But the emails, if it's not in here, it didn't go out. If it is in here, it did go out. I just want to check one other thing because that's a new thing on our email. I just want to see if it comes up here. Okay, so I guess that other log wasn't quite correct because these are the emails that I just sent. And this was the time that I just sent the very last one, and it will tell me the sent to name, what the invoice number is, the to address, and who it came from, which you can change if you need to. Question. Yes, okay. And then would the history show the invoice that was emailed to if it were changed? I don't know. Are you talking at the project level? Like when you look back at the invoice itself in the daily feed, billing status was changed. But I don't see that that actually changes. Let me see your question again. Is this sent to all individual? Yes. Okay, sorry, I answered that question. Sounds like yes from the log. The history show the invoice who it was emailed if it was changed. Yes, from the log, but not from the project itself. I was thinking in a month when the client didn't receive an email. Oh, a lot of times, yeah, the proof is in the history of whether or not that went out. Now, whether or not they received it is a whole nother thing. It just means in that history thing that we just were in, again, that's Workamajig, admin manager, today's managers, and email log. All it means is it correctly went out from Workamajig. Does not tell me if they actually opened the email. It doesn't tell me, it just will tell me that it did work. So if you didn't see it on here, there's something wrong with your setup. If you did it and it didn't show, then there's something. But now whether or not they opened it, that's a whole nother thing. Yeah, so when they first switches this into all individual. Okay, I just want to make sure I have all those questions. So we only have a few more minutes and I do want to get to some new stuff. All right, so we basically did time and material, time, fixed fee, mass billing. Yeah, we did fixed fee mass billing. So you could do that. But the last thing is, what if you have campaigns? Campaigns have some new ways that you can bill, and it's a totally new option. I want you guys to know, just in the last few months, when you go to billing today, then you're going to see fixed fee campaigns. So this was this was not an option before. And what this means, this is very important. Wait till it loads. I will have to take you over to the campaign to see this though. I have some campaigns in here and Alice. Research. I made a campaign on the campaign page. So now I can bill it and then from this area. So again, I have a client I'm pulling up. There's going to be an additional new things on here. If there was a parent, if I need to put the parent, the account manager, if I want, this is just things that you can add. And then mass billing, that's a mass billing setting. Exclude, okay. Over on the settings, most people bill their media separately. They exclude campaign projects. So when they're linked to a campaign, so if this is checked, that's okay. It's still going to show up here for the campaign. These are the actual campaigns that are set up for fixed fee. Where does that come from? If I go to your, this is important. And we look at Alice. All I'm looking at is in your campaign settings. It would say bill by campaign and use a campaign budget. So if you have this set up in your settings over here, campaign settings, then it will show up for you to bill easily. I can bill it from here, and some people do, but when I have it set up like this, you're going to be able to go over there easily. Now, using a campaign budget, I will talk for that for 2 minutes. It's your approved estimate again, and the estimates can come from the projects that are in there. So I have 2 projects totaling $9,100 on here. I pulled these in from the project's estimates to say I want to bill a campaign for $9,100 as a fixed fee. Does that make sense? Okay. 1 second. All right. So that's how it gets over there. It's really through the setup and using an estimate and using a fixed fee. So then when you come to billing, fixed fee campaigns show up. Again, we're looking at Alice only because, oh, you know what? I should have done this one. All right. So I can build this, and then you can have different GL companies, but all I have to do is hit this generate. This is asking me, do I want to add, this is a new feature, add the top line to the service and item only. If you choose invoice by service and item, that comes up. But if I do this, nothing happens. I need to choose service and item. So this is just, you'll see how this will print in a second when I generate an invoice. And I'm just doing 1 invoice per campaign. And it waits for it. and it will go down to the print or email. Oh, it's a little slow. So everything just kind of flows down to the invoice section on here. And it's not whipping fast right now. Why? I'm going to refresh my page. All right, it's this one, 9,100. Again, I can print or I can email. And when I go to email over here, then you have to click on here. Again, it's going to go to the billing. It's going to here. And I'm just going to make sure, let's make sure, because somebody asked this earlier. And I just want to make sure that shows up when we send it. It's pulling it, so give me a second. All right. And we didn't even look at that one, but they're all the same. I mean, oh, no, that's not true. I would want to show that one because that's the one with the new feature. Client invoices, all invoices. 9,100, there it is. So with that new feature to add the top line to the project, it's sometimes it duplicates, like if you already have, depending on your invoice setup, you could have it up here and down there. So if I print this, if you have it here and the campaign name, some clients wanted it to also say it here. If you don't want that, you don't want to check that box that said to go ahead and print it here also. Some people don't print it here. They remove the campaign name and only have it here. So it's just kind of up to you guys how you want to do it. Let me see. Here's a chat. What if you do not check use the campaign budget? Then you're billing like through if you're not using the campaign budget, you're either going to be just billing the campaign over through the campaign itself. So let's just go back over to any campaign on here. So in the campaign settings, this is a good question. If I'm not doing the bill by campaign, you can bill by project, and then the projects will show up to be billed. So instead of bill by, if I do this, if you notice, if I save this, there's not an option to bill over here. Actually, there wasn't one anyways. I think the setting was already off. Bill by project, online per GL main. Maybe that was a bad example, but if you bill by project, you're not going to be billing it here. You're going to bill it as a regular project, and it will show up in mass billing to be done by project instead of as a mass campaign with using a campaign budget. All right, so let me see if there's any more questions. All right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about today, again, that's, I'm going to go back to this couple of things on this back end. So you guys kind of know, these are some changes, and this is the last thing we'll talk about today, that were recently made in the last few months to the way that billing reacts. So this is that check mark that I just showed you. If you want to add that top line service notice, that's one thing. This mass billing fixed fee, we added a new format for fixed fee. When billing using only bill by client option, you can now choose one line per service and item. So it's just a choice inside the, old saying is, when I go to billing today, no, I don't want to say those changes. It's just, how do I want to bill this? I'm sorry, it was this one. Service and item. This is new. This was not there before. Instead of one line, I can do service and item. So that's something new. Just want to make you guys aware of it. There is a warning if you change your AR account on an invoice that's already been posted and had receipts applied to it. And here's what the warning looks like in case you get it. So what it means, if I went into this pen on an invoice and tried to change the accounts receivable account, it lets you know, hey, we already had receipts on this. Do you really want to do that? You know, so it's going to give you a message. That's what that does. The setting client invoices will be displayed, changing the AR default trend. Oh yeah, this is what I showed you earlier, that you can also have a new trans preference to have the approver on the PM on the project header. So that's where we were looking at earlier, just so you guys know where this whole, now we can have these choices in your projects of who do I want to be the approver on this. And that comes from your project settings, the account manager versus the project manager. So that can be controlled by the transaction preferences. Yes, I can send out the changes as long as I know who you are. Melissa, yes. Let me write your name down. Melissa. P-E-R-I-R-I-R-A. All right. Sorry. And then what's the other change? There's a couple more important changes. And billing, that's fine. Billing mask, set mark all transactions as billed is now retained for a fixed fee client. So this was more of a fix, like it wasn't holding into the mark all transactions as billed after you, like the first time you did it, then you come back the next time you have to reset it. So this makes it so you don't have to reset it anymore. Projects linked to campaigns set to bill by campaign budget no longer appear on the mass billing time and materials. Projects linked to campaigns set to bill the campaign budget no longer appeal a mass. I'm sorry, I'm not quite clear on that one, and I should have been. I wrote out, I must have skipped that one. Time and materials. Let me check this one. Mass billing, one item per selection now default in the system setup. So you have client invoice defaults. That's just, again, going back to your transaction preference, that your client defaults now can have billing line format is now an option, which it wasn't there before. So that's in the back end. And there's that top line. Oh, I guess I wrote that top line twice. So just let me check one's copy line. There was a new thing to copy a line, added the bill option to mass billing time and material. One of these says copy line. So I just want to show you what this means. Some people want to recopy lines. So I can have creative direction to go down. This was not a feature before and is now. This is on an invoice where I need to like create more lines, I guess you would say. And then with, oh, here's that me explaining between, do I need to see it here if it's here? This is adding the top line of the project. So to me, it's like, I don't know, do I need to really repeat that? Because the old way without it looks like this. It's just the campaign and then the items. So it's up to you if you want to add that top line. I don't think it's all that fabulous, but some client wanted it. So I can send this out to anyone who wants to leave their information. And that is really, just so you guys know, all I did to get this information is I went to our help guide. Well, oh, actually from you guys, let's just do it the easy way. You can click on your name, click on the more, view release notes. And then I've read them all through. If you scroll through these, when you get down to the like billing area, that's where you're going to see projects. So somewhere in here, like what changed on billing? So I really just literally copied and pasted everything over here that I saw was new. And in the last, I went back to May. So, and just went to the billing. So if you want to see what's changed in it, that's where you're going to go. All right, other questions? I would like to add to note how to add the PMs to our projects. Okay, Jean, that is first has to be set with the transaction preference. So remember I went over here and then I said you had to go into projects and then we have show project manager. So if this is not checked, you won't get both of those selections. So it's under projects, show project manager, and that allows it. Why can't I click back on it? For you to decide, do you need it to be the default? But if you leave it like this, that gives that extra spot, I think is what you were asking. So then you can do a project manager and an account manager, which a lot of people were asking for because they are two different things. And sometimes your process might include one and not the other. One last thing, let me see. Do make use, if you haven't already, of those billing selections. If you notice when I go to my project manager, that I have project status separate from billing status. So again, I can go to my mass billing and say, I only want to look up things that are, and of course these could have all, you know, whatever different settings these are. But when I come, it makes it easier for your biller because your billing person would typically be in billing today. and they would come over and say, oh, I need to pick up everything that's ready for estimate billing, but it might not be in that same status as the project. Hopefully that makes sense. I apologize. The one thing I didn't, like I said, I didn't go over is billing schedules. If anybody wants to stay, I can take a moment to go over billing schedules. Otherwise, you are free to go. Billing schedules, I'll just if you want to go, great. If you want to know what billing schedules do, let me find a billing schedule. All right, so in the project settings, actually, before I do this little demo, last thing I'm going to do, let's get rid of this invoice. Make sure that's all back to 0. So what a lot of clients like to do is they like to create on a fixed fee, a schedule. So from your project settings, we're back to square one, there will be a billing schedule. And you have a lot of options on here to say, hey, I know that I need to bill 50% up front, or you can have a dollar amount, or when a certain task completes. Like some people will be like, okay, so if I just said I want to bill 50%, it's taking it from this amount that's in there. Or I can say I have a date to bill, right? I can say I want to bill it tomorrow. All right. I'm creating by saying, well, what do I want to bill and when do I want to bill it? I can say I want to bill $100 in a couple of days, and it's creating a schedule. So what happens then is whatever's on this schedule moves over to the mass billing area. And at that point, so if I see November 3rd and this project is called fixed fee, all this is telling me, and oh, by the way, if I have two things on here, whichever one comes first, if I said I want to bill when wireframes or this date, so if I have a date in here, or if I have two things, whatever happens first is when it will be billed. So, right. So then, just so you guys know, the purpose of the billing schedule is to make it easier for the billing person to come to today billing. And then in that fixed fee for that client, Alice. Oh, why didn't she come in here? Then you're going to see the amount that you're supposed to bill, not the whole amount, come up for today, right? So here's the project. So it just allows you to create a schedule, and every time, instead of checking with your PM, AE, whatever you guys call them this week, then you can just note this needs to be billed here, and I can go ahead and generate an invoice through here. Again, this is that new option, service and item, and I can generate, and then typically mark all transactions billed, just so you know, even though you're billing fixed fee, you would still want to mark the transactions are still there in the back end regardless, and you want to say that they are marked as billed. Do I need to make a second invoice to cover the advance bill? Yes, the only way to get rid of a advance bill is to create a revenue invoice against it. The only way. So that's a good question. Anytime I have an advance bill, that's unless you like undo the whole bill or something like that. But typically you're always taking that advance bill and moving it out, and it does the system does it for you, basically, and you just take a revenue invoice and post it, or you saw me click it on the side against it. Very simple. Let's see. That's all right. Do I need to make sense? Okay, I think I got all the questions. I want to thank you guys for your time today. Again, you can follow up with your actual account advisor if you want more training, because there is more training. There's always more training. There's more things you can always do that I didn't get to today, like retainer and actual campaign billing and all that kind of stuff. But there is also some webinars we've had in the past that cover those things. So I want to thank you guys for your time. And I will try to send out to the people that wanted, Melissa, that sheet that I did. I'll go ahead and find your name, and I will go ahead and send that out. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Oh, Jill, shoot. I didn't write her name down.